Hey everyone, we are rolling. This is Talitha. I'm founder of Life Force Locks. Today we're going to talk a little bit about hair condition, scalp condition, and making sure that we can avoid dread rot and nasty scalp problems. I have a feeling that this will be a multiple video kind of discussion, but recent events have led to this teachable moment that I wanted to share with you. And I probably will also share a video on my social media pages at Life Force Locks on Instagram and on Facebook, a video that I watched last night, which was of some pretty natty dreads. So for the meanwhile, I just want to share with you my insights and my learnings recently. So I've recently worked on some dreadlocks that were looking like they needed a bit of TLC. And I wanted to share with you today the reason why what I'm about to share with you is so important. We want to avoid dread rot, which is basically any product buildup, any dampness, any residue stuck within the dreadlock itself. Also skin cells, also dandruff, dermatitis, all of that stuff has to go somewhere, right? And often it gets stuck inside of the dreadlock. And if you don't thoroughly wash your scalp and your hair, you don't thoroughly dry your dreads, then it will start to rot the inside out. It will stink. You'll have very heavy dreadlocks. My dreads are really actually quite light. They're very dry. And it just won't be a very pleasant experience. And so I'm going to share with you some things today to help you avoid this situation entirely. Recently, these are my dreadlocks, by the way. Recently, I actually did a reconstruction on a few of my dreads because they were thinning at the base, and as you can see, the end of this dreadlock is actually quite heavy. And what was happening is that this thin base was trying to hold on to this heavy as lock, and it was starting to put pressure on my scalp. So I actually chopped off my dreads halfway. I back combed them out, I brushed them out, I reconstructed the dreadlock, and then I added one of the ends, one of the tips back onto that dread. So now I have, actually that's the dreadlock there. Now I have a solid as base up the top and a dreadlock to match, right? So anyway, I did that. So the dreads that I have in front of me are actually my own dreadlocks. Just so you know, from about here up is my actual hair, and from about here down is the synthetic extension end, which I added ages ago in my first year. And for those of you that don't know, synthetic extensions can gather lint. That's another thing to be aware of. I've actually just created a hair extensions explanation page on my website which talks about it. So anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about dread rot and scalp conditions. So I took this out to show you actually what healthy inside of a dreadlock looks like. So I've had my hair dreaded. I've had my hair dreaded 3 times in my life. First 2 times, long stories, but the first time wasn't the best experience. So I ended up cutting them off. Anyway, I'm a 3-time dreadhead. I got these dreads back in April, or started the process back in April. So this is the inside of my dreadlock. It's kind of hard to focus, but basically it's just brown hair. There's no nastiness, there's no build up, there's no skank, there's no crap stuff in there. And that's quite interesting to me because I have psoriasis and dermatitis. I have a very sort of, my scalp's not itchy, but I do have a lot of flaking happening on my scalp. And I was actually expecting some of it to be inside of my dreadlocks. I literally back combed out like yay amount of my dread, and it came out easy, and there wasn't anything in it, and my hair was still really healthy. And so I think it's really important that we discuss hair health, scalp health, washing and hygiene, because recently I've worked on some dreadlocks and they weren't looking too good. They weren't looking too healthy, and not to embarrass the person, but her scalp was actually not in that great condition either. And so I want to give you some tips as an educational tool to help you keep your dreads clean and healthy. So the first thing is I wash my hair every 1.5 weeks. I don't live a really active lifestyle, so I don't do a lot of sweating. I'm out in the garden and stuff, but I don't actually sweat a lot, so I don't need to wash my hair that often. My washing regime literally is a baking soda powder, which I turn into a paste in my hand in the shower, and I scrub that on my scalp, and I give it a good scrub through. And I make sure that I get in between my dreadlocks and actually, you know, like in underneath the dread itself as well. And I give my scalp a really good, thorough massage. I rinse that out and then I spray with apple cider vinegar. These two things help balance the pH in the body. And for those of you that have fungal infections or fungal conditions, dermatitis problems, that kind of stuff, then doing those simple, cheap remedies is actually a really good thing. I wouldn't do it over the top if you have very fine hair. If you have very sensitive scalp, I'd do it maybe once a month. But for me, I do it almost every time that I wash my hair. I wash my scalp with those things. I've got a really hardy scalp and I've got very strong hair, so that's okay for me. So every week and a half I wash my hair. Once a month I'll go through and wash my actual dreadlocks. So I'll do a thorough wash of all of my dreads, and often I'll use a dread soap, a soap bar, to just go lightly over my dreads. Okay, I don't think it's that big a deal that you don't wash your dreadlocks. I sometimes, if I'm running out the door and I want to just spritz them up a bit, I'll put some essential oils in a spray bottle and just spritz around my hair, but not on my scalp. I literally just wash my scalp and just spray my hair. They don't stink, they don't smell bad, they're literally in a really healthy condition, and that's what I've done for the last year. I've used minimal products. In the first 6 to 8 months I didn't use any products on my hair whatsoever. It's only been in the last month and a half that I've put a light coating of a dread balm on my actual dreadlocks, just to sort of tame down the frizz a little bit, because I don't maintain my hair as much as I like to, because I do other people's hair. So my own hair gets put on the wayside. Anyway, so I use minimal amounts of products in my hair, and this is a result. My dreadlocks are really light, they're dry, there's no crustiness, there's no dampness. So to avoid dread rot, which is essentially product buildup, it's residue buildup, it's your own skin cell buildup inside of the dread, and not thoroughly drying your dreads. That's what causes dread rot, and it can stink. It could make your dreadlocks really heavy. You could probably find mold and mildew on the inside of the dread, and you want to avoid those things. So here are the things that I would recommend you do. Do a very simple scalp cleanse, like I've just shared: baking soda, apple cider vinegar spray, making sure that you're keeping your pH balanced on your scalp and a healthy scalp. Make sure that you get in there and give it a good scrub. Give it a thorough rinse. Okay? Use minimal amounts of shampoos. Liquid shampoos have a lot of residue in them, a lot of sticky kind of product that will stay within the hair. Okay, you want to avoid that. So use a dreadlock soap bar if you've got access to one of those. If you don't, I sell them, so you can check them out on my website. But use a dreadlock bar, something that's designed to be healthy for dreads. And again, do wash your hair, but when you wash your hair, make sure you thoroughly dry it, okay? So I actually use a hairdryer on my scalp and make sure my scalp is fully dry, and then when I do a full dreadlock wash, I stand there and I dry my dreads with a hairdryer, because it takes too long for my hair to dry, and I'm just naturally in the day, and I want to make sure that my hair is actually dry so it avoids that rot and that buildup. Okay, and use minimal products. If you feel like you do have really scratchy, dry dreadlocks, you can use a really light balm, or you could use coconut oil. But I would recommend anything that is water soluble. So things like some gels, some dreadlock gels are made out of things like aloe vera. Okay, and that's water soluble, so it's actually going to be washed off when you wash your hair rather than stick inside of the dreadlock. But to be fair, yeah, if you can handle it and you don't mind having scratchy dreads, then just don't use balms. But if you do want to use balms, then make sure it's a dreadlock friendly balm and it's a very light coating. And also do so once they're fully established. So that's usually about 6 to 8 months, depending on the way that you've dreaded your hair. My dread started to mature up at around about 8-month mark, and that's when I started to use minimal amounts of products on my hair. Yeah, so scalp health is really important. Please wash your hair. Don't wait a month, 2 months of not washing your hair, even if it means a solid rinse under the water. But please keep your hygiene on top of your hygiene. It's really important too when you are requesting other people to work on your hair that you do have good hygiene practices, because it's not the nicest thing, somebody working on your hair and it's not in the greatest condition. And there can be a lot of stigma around dreadlocks as well, and a lot of stereotyping around dreadlocks, and so it's important that we actually don't continue to manifest that stereotyping of dreadlocks being dirty and gross, that we do actually keep good hygiene and we look after our bodies and we look after our hair and we look after the reputation of dreadlocks. Yeah, so dry dreadlocks are really important for healthy, non-dreadlocked dread rot. I hope all of this has helped you in some way. Remember, do wash your hair, do thoroughly dry your hair, make sure you've got a good drying regime, use minimal amounts of products on your hair, make sure you have a super clean and healthy scalp that's going to help you as well as your loctician, and all the best out there. If you've got any questions or you want to know something in particular about dreadlocks, do drop it in the comments below this video and I will do my best to address it. In the meanwhile, this will probably be a continuing conversation of hair health, scalp health, dreadlock health, and I'm sure I'll release some more videos of this stuff in the future. But for now, that's just a little teachable moment that I wanted to share with you. Alright, that's all from me today. Take care out there, and I look forward to seeing you next time in the digital world. Ka kite.